Hello everyone, Gumba here. If you've been following my Twitter, you've seen that I've been, recreating the Uncharted mechanics from Uncharted 3, because that's like one of the most favorite games out there on PS3. And it's not also this whole reason, it's also because I wanted to increase my skills when it comes to logic design in Dreams. And since then I've learned lots of cool tricks. I mean, not lots, but it's just like few of them, it's like 7. But those are like huge enough to help you with the logic wires organization and the keyframes as well. Those are the 7 tips that I've prepared to you guys when it comes to wires, right? Because wires, there are some limits, right? When it comes to how many you can put them inside one dream or inside like one level. It doesn't matter how you say it. Also the same case with keyframes or stuff. You like look at a thermometre. There's also the gameplay thermometer. There's graphics and audio. Of course, when it comes to logic optimization, you're gonna have to focus on the gameplay temperature, because that's which resources. When it comes to which resources the logic it's gonna take the gameplay temperature. So right now it's gonna like at the 3%, but that's because of the fact that the whole logic is not all that big. But when it comes to like more ambitious projects, when it comes to logic design, then it's definitely gonna be like about 20% or more, depending on how big your logic circuits are there. So the first tip that I have to you guys when it comes to logic optimization is that when it comes to like connecting all the gadgets, if you've noticed, there's if you like take a look at the gadgets right here, because that's for example, like I've prepared to you, it's kind of a basic weapon pickup system. So if you take a look at a play mode, you can see that there's like 5 items. So if I get the torch, if I press the triangle button, as you can see, it's gonna pick up the torch. So this is kind of a basic system, but I didn't kind of make it, with so many details at all. I just kind of want to make it basic for the sake of this tutorial. So if you go back to this logic bit right here, where it's about the weapon picker system, you can clearly see that if I can show it to you guys, there's this node right here, which is connected by the triangle button of the motion sensor, the control sensor, connected to the node. So it's all connected to those end gates, and those end gates are also connected to the trigger zones, which detect any item that is like lying on the ground. It's also those end gates are connected with the on-ground output from the pub interface. So end gates are basically behave like if you've done all of those things. If you've gone near that item, specific item, and then you are on the ground. If you if you have pressed that triangle button or any button that you've like assigned, then it's gonna choose that weapon and then display it on the character. So clearly, the first thing you may have already noticed is that all of those end gates are connected to similar outputs, or not just one output, but in this case there's like 2 of them. So in this case, if you see like multiple gadgets connected by the same outputs, what can you do is if you go to the gadgets, if you go to the logic and processing, then you can see there's microchip. Microchip is not only just useful for like storing and grouping the logic bits and gadgets, which are like, I don't know, you could for example group them to when it comes to what function they actually have. But not only that, but microchips are also useful when it comes to like managing if you want to disable specific wire the gadgets. So when it comes to like end gates, then obviously it's gonna check whether all of those inputs are on. So the same thing we can do with the microchip. So when it comes to like for example those 2 outputs that are connected to, you know, each of these gadgets. What you can do is that you can take the AND gate, and then if you like close the microchip and you plug that AND gate, you can set it to power. So that will mean that now if I connect the triangle input and then the on-ground output from the Puppet interface, which is basically what is connected to every other these AND gates. What this means is that the microchip will only power on when both of these inputs are connected. So obviously when you take all of those AND gates, put them in there, then it's gonna those AND gates are gonna work in a similar way, because it's not only gonna require you to have those two inputs activated, but then also the rest of them will have to be activated. So if you like remove, so this right now you can see those two cable wires that they repeat. We can safely move them because all of those AND gates are already getting disabled if both of these inputs are either off or just one of them is off. So it's gonna work the same way, exactly the same way as the AND gates that we usually do if we're gonna plug them all together with the same inputs. So let me just arrange this real quick. What you can see right now is there's like for almost each, because there's one that is without them all. But with those 5 of them, there's one remaining wire going into the AND gates, and obviously it's pointless to make AND gates if there's only one wire going into each of them. So instead of, you're just gonna use the node and plug the node and plug all those nodes. But of course there is gonna be the amount of the AND gates that I want to replace. So of course then I'm gonna replace the wires going through the AND gate, going to the NAND gate, from the NAND gate then to the node. And I'm gonna do the exact same thing with each of them that have the input plugged in. So these nodes will react exact the same way as the AND gates. So they'll only turn on when the trigger zones activate. But not only that, but all of them are enabled and disabled whenever whenever the AND gate is disabled, and when it's disabled, when only one of them is enabled, all of them those inputs are disabled. So you can see it's gonna work exactly the same way as the AND gates before. What is with the AND gate that has no inputs? Well, obviously, since I've done the exact AND gate that was previously with those inputs that were here, and this one is exactly the same same as the one that was last time, you can just simply move this one and then plug into the thing that I was pointed before. In this case, it's the tag. Of course, I didn't tell you that to make sure that you connect all those AND gates to the AND gates which were previously connected to all these gadgets, or just one gadget, in this case a selector. So if you replace those AND gates with nodes, you obviously have to make sure that the nodes outputs are connected to exactly the same thing which previous AND gates were connected. So you connect the nodes corresponding to the previous gadget that you've replaced before, and that's it. Of course, when it comes to logic optimization, so always have to make sure that it works the same way before and after, and you have to check whether, if you've done that kind of optimization thing, does it still work properly, or has it made any bugs. So if I'm, like, for example, reaching for this shield, pressing triangle, as you can see, once again it works. That's just optimized right now. So the second tip regarding the logic optimization is gonna be about the OR gates and the usage of them. So normally if you don't make the logic with like the huge scope, then it's fine to leave the OR gates on. But when it comes to like levels with huge scope, then obviously OR gates might be kind of you know, worthless. But what I mean by this is because, like, if you take a look at this example right here, the OR gate, which has been connected by 3 nodes or any other gadget you have, it's only connected to the OR gate OR gate's output is only connected to the one specific thing, and that's it, that is AND gate. And the reason why it's kind of pointless is because if you can remove the OR gate, and then we can remove the OR gate, and then we can just simply plug all of those nodes which were being previously connected to the OR gate. You can just straight up connect to the input of whatever gadget you have from the OR gate that was previously there. And the reason why that will work is because if you go for the AND gate tweak menu and you go for this one specific input which all of those, you know, nodes are connected to, as you can see, there's something. If you hold the L1 button over here to the left of this input in the tweak menu, there's the override mode, blend mode. So that will mean that the override, as you can see by the description, means that the value will be overwritten by the largest value carried by the wires going into it. So this way it works exactly the same way as the OR gates. Just right now it's just without the OR gate. So you can see we've successfully removed one gadget and one wire going into it without the loss of the functionality. So that's the second tip. The third tip is gonna be also about the OR gate. It's gonna be a different scenario now. What if you have all of those nodes that are connected to the same OR gate? It's also gonna be a scenario of what if you have more than 10 outputs that you want to plug into the OR gate. So I'm also gonna, you know, describe what if this is gonna happen. So as you can see, it's not, those nodes are not all connected to the OR gate. So I'm just simply gonna try to do it now. So this to I, this to J, and what about the other? Well, there's no 11th input, because the OR gates or AND gates or XOR gates, they simply have the limit of 10 ports, and you can't have more than 10 ports in any of those gates, unfortunately. So what can you do? Well, since I talked about the override mode within the one input earlier, you can simply do the same thing here, and you can once again get rid of the OR gate. Why? Because we can also replace it with something different. The simplest way will be to make a node, stamp a node in here, and then obviously I'm not gonna have any port going in and out of the microchip. So what node will allow us to, it's obviously the same thing as before with the AND gate, is that we can plug all of those nodes or any other gadgets you have to this input right here, and use all those wires to connect the outputs of these gadgets and then input of this one specific node. And after you do that, once again, the blend mode for the wires is by default set to override, which is what exactly we need. And once again, it works exactly the same as the OR gate. And then you, as last time, there was an OR gate, you can simply plug them to all of the things that are previously connected to. Remember, these are not like the little, you know, gadgets I could use later on. It's just, it could be anything. It could be like, this could be timer, this could be another like microchip. So I'm not talking about like, you know, different gadgets you can use by connecting to the input. But also it is gonna be the case that like they're very similar gadgets. You could just simply use one of them and instead of all of them, because that's a waste of the wires and the amount of gadgets you can put in one Dream. So that's the third tip. The fourth tip is gonna be similar with regards to like the design, but it's different because it's gonna be in the AND gate. And I'm gonna mind you now, this is not gonna work 100% of the time, and it's best to work when you have all the wires going into the gate that are binary. What does the binary mean? Binary means that the wires can have two values. One which is 0 and then the second one which is 1. Or you could simply say no, or yes, or the negative, or the positive. You get the idea. So the same thing goes when it comes to AND gate. It only has 10 maximum outputs you can go with. So if you plug the 10th one to the last input, if you go for the 11th one, you can't put more of them anymore. You could try doing something like, if you actually wanna do your best to plug the rest of the nodes or any other gadgets, you can simply, connect additional AND gates and then plug the rest of them. And usually that would be the way to go. If you don't have the binary, you don't have all of the wires as the binary connections. But if you do, you could just simply get rid of all of the AND gates and then use the calculator. And I'm gonna quickly modify it. So it's gonna be important to go into the tweak menu in the calculator. You have to have set the operation to equal, and you have to set the second operand to 1 exactly. There you go, we have 1. We leave the first operand the default because it's gonna be connected to all the gadgets that you wanna make the operation of the AND gate. So basically you wanna have to connect all of them. As you can see, I can also finally connect the rest of the gadgets that previously I couldn't. I had to go all the ways to connect all these wires to the AND gates to make it work. Instead, now if you go to the tweak menu again, now when it comes to what we used the override mode, if you hold L1, you can see the description of it here. If you press X, it's gonna turn into the blend mode, and the blend mode will mean that it's gonna, as you can see, it's gonna weigh the average of the wires going into that one input. So if the value of those wires are gonna equal 1, then the average of all of those wires will simply stay still 1, because obviously if every other things if every wire is exactly the same when it comes to the value, then the average of them will still be the same. And of course, as long as there are no zeros, it's gonna stay 1. So whenever this, for example, node will have the wire which is gonna equal 0, then the average is no longer gonna be 1 exactly. It's gonna be just below 1, and it has to equal 1. So that still will kind of work the same way as the AND gate. So if every wire is gonna be activated, then the AND gate would activate. So the same way our calculator would say, oh, that is equal to 1, so it's gonna activate the result. It's gonna say that it's positive result, so it actually equals, and you can use the same. You can use this kind of setup to plug in further logic. The 5th tip is gonna be about timer, and this is something that I haven't realized that was there up until I don't know, a few weeks ago. When it comes to timers, I'm gonna give you one example. We really wanna, for example, make a kind of a weapon or ability to that one character, which has the cooldown, so you can't instantaneously use the ability or attack one after another. But instead you have to hit once and wait a certain amount of time to be able to hit again. So that's what timers will allow you to do that. But the problem with the timers at the beginning as well is that it's not that obvious that you can go with the specific special output that you can use with the timer. So by the default, you can see that there's visible two outputs. One is the timer finished pulse, and then the timer output. Normally what people will do, and myself would do, is whenever you have the timer, for say like you have like a cooldown of 5 seconds, and we have the timer output, which as with the time it goes from 0 to 1. It's gonna be all the way from the beginning, it's gonna be 0. If it's gonna be finished, it's gonna be 1. So obviously I've put the calculator to make sure that it equals to 1. If it equals to 1, so that will mean that the timer is finished. It's gonna say, oh, that's true. It's gonna carry on the signal, and it's gonna activate the attack again, or whatever you have. But you could, do you know that you actually can do it different way? There's actually a simpler way. Yes, you can. So do you remember that one hidden output I was talking about previously? That not many of you will already know. Well, if you go to the timer tweak menu, and you can see all of those inputs and outputs. There's this one special output that you can see here. It's timer finished signal. So when it's gonna be finished, instead of the timer finished pulse, which is gonna be used for only like certain, you know, things. Instead of having the pulse when the timer finishes, like when exactly the timer gets finished, then the pulse is sent about the timer being finished. So instead of the pulses, you're getting a constant signal that the timer has done counting, and then you can simply use this instead, and then connect to the attack or the ability you wanna have to have the cooldown with. So that's a 5th tip. The second last tip that I want to show you guys when it comes to the stable values, because I realized that many people when they want to have this like the stable values, so like if you like follow the mathematical rules, etc. There's this number called pi, and it's like equals to 3.14 something, right? And there's like lots of continuous numbers after the decimal, so you get a point. So normally people use for this scenario variable. If you like, say you want to have the pi number, you would just go for like, I don't know, say 3.1. That's the furthest I can go. I mean, simply I could try my best to set it to 3.1 point, but for the sake of the presentation of this tutorial, I'm gonna leave it at that. And variables themselves actually take a bit more gameplay thermometer than say if you like used the value slider. If you go for the sensor input, and then from like the gadgets, from the gadgets page, if you go to sensor input, you can see something like value slider. You are basically able to do a similar thing. If you put the value slider in there, you can make it so it's all not visible in the scene, because it's not gonna be useful for the microchip. Since you can't reach by default the value you want, you have to make sure that the maximum value be at least the minimal or exceed the value you want. So let me just make sure I set the 3.1. And then, since the value slider, as long as you don't connect to any keyframe and you don't use any wire to modify the value of it, you can simply use it as a stable value. It's not gonna, unless you like power it off, it's not gonna change, because even after like you power off and all, it's still gonna be there. It's just when you disable it, it's gonna output 0. So you just have to keep in mind. But instead of that, you can just simply plug into the operand 1, and you can get rid of the variable. You can connect to anything you want. In this case, I used the calculator. You have the value slider acting as a stable value. So that's one of the things that I've noticed people doing. But I honestly think like the value slider is like honestly the best thing to do within this case scenario. And the last tip that I have, when it comes to the wires, the logic gadgets, you know that you can do lots of things with them. You can set a lot of things, right? You can fix, for example, all of the things to the puppet. You can see that I've done this one bit of logic piece right here. This is a node that comes from like the one circle button output from the controller sensor once again. And I've done some like calculators to make sure to calculate specific tweaks for the lower body movement, tweaks and upper body movement tweaks. So if I got to play mode, and then if I hold circle, it's gonna turn to the sneak mode. It's gonna like start sneaking like this. It's gonna like start crouching, and sometimes, because you can see it kind of, it doesn't look all that bad right now if you have like only like 4 wires right now, if you like this, but if you decided to make more tweaks like these with the wires, then it's gonna start to create some kind of a mess when it comes to that. You're gonna have lots of wires going in between, from the Puppet logic microchip to the Puppet itself, and of course not only that will bug, but also it's gonna possibly take more of the gameplay temperature that you would need to. So sometimes it's just better, instead of using wires or like logic, instead of you could just simply use, if you like get rid of it all, you could just simply use the keyframe. And what is cool about the keyframe, if I step it down, I can just simply select anything to move. If I cap it down, it's gonna change the position once the keyframe is on. Or I can just simply modify other things as well. When it comes to Puppet, I can just simply use the keyframe to remotely change some tweaks. It's gonna remember that as well. So obviously I'm gonna do the same thing here. If I look at the notepad, because I've set values to remember to set, so I will set exactly the same things that I've done before. So this goes to 45, this goes to 21. If I go to the upper body movement tweaks, then the arm value goes from 21 to 35, and then the arm flail from 0 to 30. And then you can close the keyframe recording, and then of course you have to connect the the output of the node that is like corresponding to the circle output from the controller sensor. If you plug it into the keyframe, and if you go to the play mode, you can see if I hold circle button, it works exactly the same way. It's gonna take less of the gameplay thermo than last time. So yeah, those are the old tips that I've given when it comes to logic optimization. I hope you find it useful. So as you can see, it didn't really go all that much because of the gameplay temperature. It doesn't cost exactly like all that much lower. But when it comes to like the logic with the larger scope, it's gonna be like when there's like lots of wires going on, and there's like lots of other gadgets and lots of keyframes. Because by the way, those also take a bit of the gameplay temperature. Then, if you do all those tips that I've just shown to you throughout the entire logic that you've just made, then you might be able to like reduce the logic temperature, the gameplay temperature to, I would say like from 1 to 2, 3, even like 5 or 6%. So it's always worth optimizing it this way. So I hope you found it useful, and I hope if you like didn't really want, or if you knew this already, I hope you find it entertaining anyway, that I've gone through all of these optimization tips. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. Like if you've liked this video, or dislike if you didn't. Subscribe for more content, and I will see you guys next time. See ya!